Russia-Ukraine news. What do you think Putin and Xi must think of the antics of the US deep state? It's an interesting thought experiment to consider how Beijing or Moscow might react to the left-wing establishment's lawfare equivalent of carpet-bombing former President Donald Trump, with the goal of reducing his presidential comeback ambitions to charred rubble by November 2024. Generally speaking, Western politicians either win or lose elections. If they fail, they can always go back to their normal lives and try again. In countries without rule of law and fair elections, such as Russia and China, politics is more akin to the sort of royal jockeying seen in the Middle Ages. The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli is a how-to guide for thriving in such a society. Poison, assassination, exile, disappearances, or official condemnation replace honest election contests, making Game of Thrones a relevant modern adaptation. The attempt to use government prosecutorial power against Trump would therefore be seen by Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese leader Xi Jinping as a standard tool in any dictator's toolkit. Joseph Stalin's secret police commissar Lavrenti Beria once said, "Show me the man, and I'll show you the crime." Trump is still a free man and he is still running for president, posing an existential threat to the continuation of President Joe Biden's remaining in the White House. However, while Putin and Xi surely recognize the form, they likely mock its sloppy and slow execution. If a dictator is used to eliminating potential rivals, Trump's continued presence on the board signals weakness. Evidence that connects Biden, through his son Hunter, to millions of dollars in foreign bribes from China, Ukrainian oligarchs, and Romania over the course of 5 years is also being made public, and this will likely be seen as a sign of weakness. Information is tightly regulated by dictatorship. Corruption and official wrongdoing are problems in the United States, but they are exponentially more widespread in countries ruled by dictators. In terms of hard currency, both Xi and Putin are among the top 10 richest men on the planet. In both China and Russia, corruption is so pervasive that any political rival could be falsely accused of corrupt practices and convicted to remove them from power. The efforts of federal law enforcement and intelligence officials to undermine Trump with false allegations of Russian collusion were only partially successful. They limited Trump's ability to act as president but did not succeed in removing him from office. Putin's bloody history. In contrast, Putin likely carried out a series of terror bombings of apartment complexes that killed over 200 Russians in 1999 while serving in the weak office of Prime Minister for the very unpopular outgoing President Boris Yeltsin. Muslim Chechen terrorists were held responsible for the bombings, giving Putin an opportunity to rebrand himself as a strong leader. 2 residents of an apartment building in Ryazan, Russia, reported a suspicious vehicle in September 1999, after 4 bombs had already gone off in different cities. The car was not located by local law enforcement, but a suspicious device and detonator were discovered in the basement. A day after the building was evacuated and the device removed, the FSB, the Soviet Union's successor to the KGB, announced that the bomb components had been part of a civil defense exercise. After that, the evidence was locked away, so there's no need for you to stick around. Putin, of course, didn't have to stress over a free and independent press offering a compelling alternative viewpoint. At least 26 journalists and media workers have been murdered in Russia since Putin came to power in 1999, with many of the victims having allegedly crossed paths with the Russian president. The last Russian journalist to be officially documented as murdered died in 2017. It seems the country's journalists have learned their limits. In the United States, the truth is easier to find. Despite the fact that the United States is weighed down by corporate media that leans left, has a tendency toward lazily accepting the official party line, and is profoundly uncurious, the truth occasionally makes its way into the public eye. There are 3 factors to thank for this: freedom of speech guarantees, the democratization of information dissemination made possible by the rise of digital platforms and cable news outlets, and market pressures that often compel traditional media to cover stories even when they would rather not. This hampers the ability of the central government to launch effective information operations. The once official stories regarding COVID-19, Hunter Biden's laptop, corruption within the Biden family, and Trump-Russia collusion have all crumbled to varying degrees. Our system and culture, stumbling, slow, and imperfect as it may seem, is responsible for the implosion of these official cover stories. Imagine the state of these stories without the press freedoms and the new era of digital journalism that we enjoy as a result of our system of divided government with co-equal branches. It is for this reason that China has put so much effort into implementing the Great Firewall of China, a system of rapid response censorship of the Internet, and a social credit system. All of this is intended to shield the Chinese Communist Party from public scrutiny. Avoiding the truth makes you vulnerable. Putin and Xi would see our openness to information as a weakness, but the reality is quite the opposite. The dictators in Russia and China only pay attention to what they want to hear. This prolongs the life of a regime regardless of its effectiveness and responsiveness to the needs of the people, but reduces the opportunity for corrective feedback within the regime. According to Putin, the Ukrainian government would fall apart the moment the lightning invasion was launched in February 2022. This is a dangerous and incorrect assumption. If Xi isn't careful, he could end up attacking Taiwan without thinking it through. The United States has yet to face the fallout from official deceptions regarding the source of COVID-19 and U.S. gain-of-function funding for the Wuhan Virology Lab, from official cover-ups by the FBI and the intelligence community on behalf of President Biden and his extended family, and from the federal assault on Trump that began in 2016 and has yet to cease. But something will probably happen, and America will be stronger for it, whether it takes the form of holding individuals accountable or eliminating or restructuring entire organizations. But reforming the government isn't something that happens on its own. It will require a focused, methodical effort, which so far only Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis seem willing to make. It's a Herculean task, on par with tidying up the Augean stables. With Trump limited to 1 term and DeSantis to 2, agency accountability risks becoming a Sisyphean slog under either new administration.